Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the hearing to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson today, or this afternoon. Introducing the panel members is Carrie Linkletter to my left and Mr. Brent McIntyre to her left. And representing the city from the Assessment Department is Marty Fontanella, and our recording secretary is Kelsey Harrison. We'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the applicant or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn-in testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the members of the municipal board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to application for exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this afternoon, I'll confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant. Following the swearing in, we'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions, and there will be the other applicants' information or testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this afternoon. The session will close after all applications has been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll ask our secretary to swear in the assessor, and Mr. Reimer, you can come forward and be affirmed.
Thank you, sir. Could you please state your name? And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Could you please state your name? And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, we'll just go according to the docket that we have here. So the first property is Taylor Avenue, 693 Taylor. So whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
Okay. So the file number for the subject property in question is 19-2863. The roll number is 1201 121 6300. The address is 693 Taylor Avenue. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 was had gone out at $4,485,000. And I do have a recommendation to make. Sorry, I make you
No
get your
worries.
steps in today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I wonder if they're free to the pictures first, but we can go through the recommendations instead.
Yep.
So looking at the original valuation stream that we had, we had 25,760 square feet at $12.02. And then we had another premise at 5,750 square feet at $3.93. That was a basement space. We have the model parameters applied of 4% vacancy, $6 shortfall, and we have net operating income of $305,002, which is capitalized at 6.8% model driven, which gave us the market value of $4,485,000. And after taking a review of the property, it was decided that an adjustment on the rent was needed. So we went down to using the actual rent that was being reported on the property. So we have 25,760 square feet at $10.32, which was changed. The basement was kept the same at $3.93. And if you look on the bottom, we have a combined Total area of 31,510 square feet at $9.15 over the whole property. We applied the 4% vacancy allowance, $6 shortfall, and I had increased the capitalization rate from 6.8 to 7.25, which gave us the revised value of $3,637,045.
All right. Mr. Reimer, are you in agreement?
Not quite. We're closer, but we'll let you
Okay.
proceed.
We'll turn it back to the assessor. So do you want to take us through any
Yeah, maybe I'll just
more
take you through the pictures and some of the market data, and then as the recommendation has changed from the valuation stream, perhaps we don't have to necessarily go over those details. So that if you look on page 2, if I can direct your attention there, we have the a couple maps of the subject property in question. The subject property is located on the corner of Taylor and Wentworth, and Pembina, I guess, is in a bit of a unique position there, the parcel. So the top page is the subject property with the parcel surrounding it. The bottom image is the pictography image that shows the subject property in question. On the following page, on page 3, I have some Google Street View images of the subject property in question. I believe it's being used as a furniture retail store. Page 4 has some more pictures of the property. On page 5, we have some information. We do have a sale. It's from 2005, so it's old, but we have it there on in our records. And then I have some market data. So what I tried to do with this one is I was looking for some comparable sizes and uses to the subject property in question. And so you can see we have a range of market values ranging from $10 all the way up to, I guess, $20 at the higher end. So we seem to be within the range there. And on page 7, we have the original valuation stream that I had already gone over with you guys. So that was for the original value of $4,485,000, rounded. Page 8 is a continuation of the valuation stream, so that just shows a summary of it. On page 9, I have the usual information in regards to a sampling of the cap rates. So municipal act excerpts continue on page 10. And I have included the most recent mailer information that we have, and this is the information that I had used in my analysis. And we can see on page 13 that I had calculated the monthly rent provided with the lease area, and attempted to make an adjustment, and we had came up with the value that we used in for the rent rate. And then we continue forward, and we just have some information on some of the information that was provided in the mailer that had gone out with it, and then I ended off with the addenda information in regards to the cap rate and the 5% non-recovery. And that's my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And one quick request, if I could ask on, I'm going to call you Mr. P because I'm going to just butcher your last name. In Mr. P's brief on pages 15 and 16, could I ask that the board redact the user ID number for privacy
Is that
reasons?
put in there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's,
Okay, I never
if we
thought
could redact those ID numbers on those 2 pages, I
Thank you,
think.
Kerry. I appreciate that.
What page, Kerry, again,
Those
please?
are pages
15.
15 and 16, I know.
Yeah, 16. Thanks. Catch that.
Thank you very much. Okay, briefly, thank you, Mr. P, for your recommendation. I think the issues are actually getting quite narrow now. Could we turn initially, please, to page 13? And I appreciate what you've done is adjusted, as I understand it, adjusted the rent to what they've reported. We can agree that the clear reporting, though, is indicating that the landlord and tenant in this case have common ownership, correct?
We can see that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, then briefly, on your page 6, please. So, and I'm gonna label these in, I'll just put the index numbers beside each of the comparables. So there's a total of 9, and comparables 1, 2, 3, and 5, I believe we could agree are all located in the power center across from Polo Park Shopping Center.
Correct.
Okay, and comparable number 8, which is the second last one, that's the brick on St. James. Now, you've got a lease start date of March 16th, 04, but were you aware that this was actually a 2017 renewal of the brick at that $10 rate?
I wasn't aware of it.
Okay. I didn't think you would be. I assume this was just generated from
It was,
data out
sure.
of the computer.
Yeah.
Sure. Understand. Okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have a brief submission concerning the cap rates provided to Mr. P by the department that are located on his page 22, but I'll incorporate that, I'll incorporate that into my discussion with asking more questions right now. And I'm not going to belabor the 5% non-recoverable allowance. Mr. P's been very concise in his statement, so I'll present my thoughts on it. But I know these, Mr. Chairman, the board members have heard this probably ad nauseum by now, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But I will have a presentation, so thank you. Those are my questions.
I thank you. Ms. Licklider?
Yes, concerning page 3 of your brief, you've got, oh, I see, there's my question right there. Maybe,
Oh.
you didn't have a chance to inspect them,
No.
okay. Do you know anything about, because I see you've got this at 2% vacancy, and they've got a sign in front?
I believe it's 4% vacancy within the model that was applied on it.
Sorry, I thought yours, oh, it is, okay, my apologies. But again, do you know anything about this leasing sign?
No, that would, it appears that they're looking for a space. Beyond that, I have no idea. Maybe they want to dice up the area or not.
Okay.
I'm not aware of the inner workings of the business in
So-
regards to that.
So I'm sorry, do you know if this property then has had an issue with vacancy?
I'm unaware of any of those details.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
Ms. Linklater took my question. If that's okay.
Okay. So what prompted the changes?
Well,
When
in a
the initial one was market-driven, and what did you look at to change your figures?
So the initial one would have been, like the original assessment was model driven. So it was a combination of looking at the market data in the surrounding neighborhood, seeing what they were getting, and then I looked at the overall market data for some, although they're not in the same neighborhood, they do give some indication in terms of size on the range of rents that they were receiving, and then I looked at the income and expense information, and I saw what they were reporting. They seemed to be fairly close to some of the parameters that I was considering, and so I felt it was a fair adjustment to make. And it would have been the same with the cap rate, that I felt that even though the model driven was not extremely low, it was still a bit healthy for my regards, and I thought maybe that it could have had an adjustment on the cap rate. So that was my methodology behind the review of this property.
Would you happen to know what the average increase for these type of properties from the last assessment? Do you have a ballpark
No, I'm
figure?
unaware. Unfortunately, I'm unaware of that. I definitely felt the increase was perhaps a little
On the high
aggressive, and
side.
so yeah, and so I was kind of looking at ways to mitigate
Okay.
what the model would have applied to the property.
All right.
Can I
Yes,
ask another question?
certainly.
I'm sorry, my brain's a bit slow this afternoon. Mr. Pantania, you had stated that you didn't have a chance to inspect, but can you tell me, do you have field notes when the last time this property was inspected?
I'm trying to remember if I looked in the system. It'd be difficult for me to answer exactly that at the
Okay.
moment.
And page 6 of your brief with your rent comparables,
Sure.
do you know what is situated at 326 Woodlawn?
I do. So I'm not sure if you wanted me to say the tenant or just try to describe its use, I guess, although it's a little, it'd be hard to describe its use. I'll let you guys, at your discretion on that one. I'm just aware we're not really necessarily supposed to discuss the tenant, but I can tell you that it's used in a design fashion, I believe. And
Do you know the cross street?
Wardlaw and Donald, so it's right on the corner. And yeah, maybe, you know. it could
You
be
know
built-
what, I'll be able to fill in a little bit more
Okay.
information.
Thanks.
And some rebuttal
It,
action.
it could be building supplies perhaps, I'm unsure of the exact nature.
Okay, I think I have.
But I do believe it's in a retail fashion, I'm just unaware of exactly what they sell.
So, I'm going to assume then that you were unable to find any rent comparables near our subject property.
Well, the problem with this one, and I shouldn't necessarily say the problem, but the issue, let's say with this one, is that because it had been labeled as a retail warehouse, it didn't fall under the usual retail parameter that we had in the department. And so that forced me to open my net to try to find properties that had the same use, I guess, so that we can compare apples to apples, so that we had the same parameters applied, and then that's when I could see what the rent rates were. So that's why if you look on my market data, that they might not all necessarily be in that neighborhood, but they all have similar uses. And so that's where I thought maybe that they would be applicable to just find a range for this subject property.
Okay, and would you agree that the first, how many do you have, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, the first 8 comparable, rent comparables are in a far more highly visible
Yeah, I would say
area,
that.
high
Yep,
traffic?
Yep, I would not dispute that statement
As
in
opposed
any
to
way.
this?
They're definitely, they would definitely be superior to the subject property
Yeah.
it's used. So.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Reimer, your presentation?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So in order to do this in some semblance of in an organized fashion, I propose I've got rebuttal evidence relating to the lease comparables. So that's the document that is being distributed now.
So all the names are there anyway?
Thank you.
And then secondly, I have rebuttal relating to the capitalization rate information that Mr.
So we'll first deal with the rents, I
Sure,
guess.
I'll incorporate it all
Okay.
into the discussion.
That's fine.
So, but good place to start probably would be, and actually, Ms. Linkletter's summarized the precise concerns that we had, and I entirely appreciate that Mr. P was searching their database to try and get larger retail comparisons, but I'd suggest in no uncertain terms that most of them are in vastly superior locations and vastly superior quality and in much newer buildings. So I won't go through it all in detail, but the particulars of the lease comparables that Mr. P was able to find from their database are listed on my pages 2 and 3 of this rebuttal evidence that I've handed out. So as you can see in the rebuttal document, these are, of course, there's the power center across the street, across St. James Street from Polo Park. These are the various tenancies located in that power center in terms of lease comparables 1, 2, and 3. These are buildings that were built in 2001 and 2003 and very, very much superior location. One of the key retail locations right by Polo Park. Comparable number 4 is at 1000 St. James Street. That's also, in general terms, part of that development, but a little bit further north. That, I note, there was a TI of $200,000 that was included in that lease rate, or in that lease deal, so I thought I'd bring that to the board's attention. And then turning to the next page, again, comparables. Comparable number 5 is, again, one of the big box, or mid-box, I guess you'd call it, locations in that power center right by Polo Park. Comp number 6, that's interesting. That's, of course, what was supposed to be the new Target store right by Polo Park. Obviously, that didn't pan out well, and that comparable number 6 is one of the tenants that ultimately took occupancy in that building. Comparables number 7 and 8 are at 1250 St. James, and with particular reference, and this is important, I suggest. If you recall, I'd asked Mr. P about the information that the computer printed regarding the lease of the break at 1250 St. James Street. The reason I did that is that what the department's got in its database is a lease start date of March 16, 2004. That's incorrect. That was the original lease start date, but there was a renewal of this lease rate in 2017, and that confirmation of the renewal date is located, I won't return to it now, but for the board's reference, it's located on page 18 of this rebuttal, on the very last page, which indicates the renewal date of March 3rd, 2017. So with respect, I believe that that lease is probably the most comparable, certainly in terms of size. It's very comparable in terms of the building's effective age is 1999, a lot newer than the subject. It is located a bit further north, so not quite in that prime retail district, and the lease rate under that 2017 renewal was $10. So I believe it certainly does support our suggestion for our market rent this afternoon. The question had come up, I think it was Ms. Linklater, about the Wardlaw Avenue comparable, so that's the least comparable 9 and I've got the tenant name there, and do note though, that's a very, very small, obviously 9,500 feet. It's about 1/3 or 30% of the size of the subject, so an adjustment would, I suggest, need to be made for size. And when you make that adjustment for size, I again suggest that our rental rate is appropriate. So now I'll leave that rebuttal, move on from there. If I could then ask Mr. P and the board members to go to our evidence in chief. And while I'm going through my materials, if board members could have Mr. P's revised valuation sort of in front of them too, so you can see side by side. The issues have become very narrow now, concerning our respective valuations of the subject properties. So the first issue that arises relates to the rent. So Mr. P's recommendation is based upon a lower potential rent of $288,317. That is now only, there's still a significant difference, but it's certainly not as substantial as it was. We're suggesting a total potential income of $273,470, so it's about $15,000 lower based on the application of a lower market rent, actually relating to the main floor space, because our market rent we're applying to the basement space is actually higher than what the model had kicked out for the basement space. In support of our suggestion for that $9.50 rate, I would ask the board to go to our page 7, which is the lease comparables that we have presented to this board in support of the rate. So the lease comparables, as you can see, they range from a high of $10.75 for property in McPhillips Street down to a low of $5.95 a square foot for a property on Pembina. Much larger, 47,933 square feet, significantly larger than the subject. So when I looked through those comparables and given the size and age of the building, and the building is an older building, it's being kept in reasonable shape, but certainly is not sort of wouldn't be considered anywhere near sort of a 90s vintage or obviously post-90s vintage building. We certainly thought the $9.50 rate was well supported by these comparables. In terms of the basement rate we've applied, the basement rents are exceptionally difficult to find. Most of the time they're not rented at all, they're just used for storage, and the rent is charged based on main or upper floors only. But we do have a few basement rates there, and we're suggesting, based on the size of the subject basement, it's I believe, yeah, it's just over, or it's just under 6,000 square feet. We're applying $5 a foot at the lower end of that range. So then, if you turn to page 8 of our submission, we're using the main floor area of 25,760 at $9.50 a foot, and the basement area of 5,750 at $5 a foot. So that's where we're coming in at the 273,470. The next issue then, we're agreeing with the vacancy allowance, agree with the shortfall rate and the 2%. So of course the next issue that has been discussed at some length over the past few months is the non-recoverable expense allowance. For the reasons, and I don't propose to go through it, you've all heard it many times, for the reasons set forth in our non-recoverable expense study that are presented to this board this afternoon, we're suggesting the restoration of that 5% expense. We continue to believe that it was always intended to be an allowance for expenses that were not recovered, specifically the most significant of which is leasing commissions. There's also professional fees and advertising and such, but we certainly believe that the 5% should be restored. Then the final issue, and actually Mr. P's come a very long way towards our submission this afternoon. His revised workup is at 7.25%, and we're suggesting a capitalization rate slightly higher of 7.5%. That has to do with a couple of factors. One of the factors, of course, and I mentioned this, that we're applying a rent of $5 a foot to the basement space. The basement space in any given building is going to be exceptionally difficult to lease, even under sort of a very favorable landlord market. Most tenants do not wish to have space in the basement where there's no fenestration and there's access can be an issue. Certainly as far as elevator access and such, that's not the case here. So you're both, as far as the quality of the space and the access issues, there's a significant component of the overall income stream that is much higher risk, and therefore we're suggesting something higher than we would normally account for if the building, if no income was attributed to the basement space, and therefore we're suggesting 7.5%. So when you turn to our page 10 then, of our submission, using that rent of $273,470 and the parameters I've discussed, including the 7.5% cap rate, we come in at a value of $3,155,000 rounded. And to your point, Mr. Chairman, that represents still an increase over the previous assessment. That for the information of the board, that board order is attached for the reference, but something much closer to what would be reasonable if you look at that in isolation. I think it was Ms. Linklater asked about an inspection, so if I could ask board members, Mr. P, to turn to page 25. I did have an opportunity to inspect this property in the fall of last year. So pages 25 and 26 are the main floor photos, and 27 and 28, including the storage area. And then at page 29 and 30 are photos of the basement area. So the basement area, there is some material down there, but it's not used in any sense. It's just sort of items that are sitting there because the space exists, and certainly if by some wild chance there was a tenant that would show any, a prospective tenant that would show any interest, all that would be cleaned up in a hurry. The other question that had come up related to Mr. P's photo where it indicated the for lease sign. So if the board members and Mr. P could turn, I'll just give you a frame of reference. If you could turn to page 27, and you'll see there's what looks, especially in the, oh, it's the better picture. The top picture is actually the better one. So there's a bit of a, it almost looks like a demising wall, and there's that opening with where there's actually a door that can go up and down. That's more apparent on the bottom photo, but the top photo sort of shows the entire wall more accurately. So the entire main floor area has inventory in it, but what our client is attempting to do is to lease a part of the main floor space, and they're utilizing the entire floor area because it's there and because they haven't been able to secure a tenant, with the intent though, if the tenant is at some point going to get secured, then they're going to actually very quickly move their inventory out of, it's roughly 10,000 square feet of space. This is post-reference material. Mr. P's photograph is dated May of 19, and I do know that the professional brokerage firm has been engaged and was engaged some months prior to that without any success at all. So I'm not going to dwell on it though because that is post-reference, but that is the situation based on the questions that were asked. So with respect to the 7.5% cap, again, I won't go through the detail. We've heard it all. Our capitalization rate study has a range of cap rates between, at the low end it's 5.92, at the high end it's about 9.5%. The 7.5% in this case represents the, I believe fairly represents the risk based on the basement area having a significant component of the income stream, and also based upon the fact that this building is reasonably maintained but a little bit older and is a larger. There's not all that many tenants certainly that would want to take 25,000 square feet of contiguous space, and even 10,000 feet has proven to be a wee bit difficult. So that is our request this afternoon with respect to reduce the assessment to $3,155,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer. Questions of the applicant?
No, sir, no questions from.
Ms. Linklater?
No questions.
Mr. McIntyre?
And I have no questions.
Either party wants summation?
No, thank you.
All right, let's move on then. two. Oh, sure. Okay. Portage Avenue, 303, whenever you're ready. And I understand there might be a recommendation here?
Yes, sir. Okay. So the file number in question for the subject property under review is 19-3540. The roll number is 1305-219-6000. The address is 303 Portage Avenue. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 is for $3,119,000. And I do have a recommendation to offer on this property.
Thank you. You can go right to the recommendation.
Okay, so the original value had gone up from $3,119,000. So after review of the agent's brief, we were in agreement that the rental rates needed to have an adjustment. So the rents have been adjusted from were adjusted to 16,001 square feet at $13 a square foot, 4,500 square feet at $8.70 a square foot. And with the rest of the model parameters applied, we have a revised value of $2,835,000 rounded.
I thank you. Mr. Reimer, are you in agreement?
We are in agreement with the value. Yes.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, when you adjusted the rates, is that to actual?
Yes, so I believe when I reviewed the agent's brief, he had provided some information on the rents that were being achieved, and I didn't dispute his methodology. I thought he was reasonable and decided to make an adjustment.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on to Portage Avenue, which is 354. Whenever you're ready, and I understand there might be a recommendation there, so you can do the same as what you did.
Subject property in question, the file number is 19-3563. The roll number is 1209-347-9000. The address is 354 Portage Avenue. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 is for $3,040,000. And I have a recommendation to offer. This subject property had several premises associated. You can see that there was quite a few there. And after some information provided in the agent's brief in regards to the vacancy of the property, and doing some more research on, it was decided that a vacancy allowance would be applicable on the subject property. And when we did a review of the leasable area that was currently vacant, we applied the guidelines set forth from the department, which allowed for a 17% vacancy allowance to be applied on the property. And with all the other parameters remaining the same, we have a revised market value of $2,471,000.
Mr. Reimer?
We are in agreement with the value of $2,471,000.
All right. Any questions, panel members? No? Okay. We'll go on to Regent, 1510 Regent Avenue West. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the file number for this property is 19-2497. The roll number is 0900-764-4100. The address is 1510 Regents Avenue West. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 is for $2,593,000, and I do have a recommendation on this one.
Okay. Thank you. Alrighty.
So after review of the subject property and the valuation stream that was applied for the 2020 assessment, it was decided that some adjustments were needed on the property, and so the rent was adjusted, had a minor adjustment on it to maintain the rent that was applied in the, that was being used in the previous cycle. And then there was an adjustment on the capitalization rate. It went from 6.3 to 7%. And the rest of the parameters were all model driven, and when it was applied, we have a revised value of $2,285,000.
I thank you. Mr. Reimer?
We are in agreement with 2,285.
I thank you. Questions, panel members?
No questions.
Okay. We'll go on to 930 Nairn Avenue. Whenever you're ready.
So the file number for the subject property in question is 19-3050. The roll number for the subject property is 141-000-27000. The address is 930 Nairn Avenue B. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 is for $3,498,000. And I do have a recommendation to make on this one. This one actually has the recommendation built in the brief, so we don't need to hand one out. So if I can direct your attention to page 9 of my brief. So this property has two valuation streams. One of the streams is a storage warehouse stream that we can see, which would be on page 7 of my brief. Sorry to make you jump back and forth. And so we have a storage warehouse stream there. And the parameters on it was 6,000 square feet at $8.06 a square foot. We had the model parameters for the particular type of use being applied, which gave us a capitalization rate of 5.5%, in which when you go through the stream, it gives us a value of $798,000. Sorry, this is a little backwards, but if I can direct your attention to page 6. Page 6 is the retail stream, the retail component of the subject property. And so we have four streams associated with the retail component. And we have some rents ranging from $15 to $22 on each one. So 3,971 square feet at $15.15, 1,440 square feet at $22.78, 3,960 square feet at $20.95, and 4,320 square feet at $15.05. We have the retail parameters that are being applied. And when we go through the retail parameters, we have an estimated value of $2,742,000. So I would like to direct your attention to the fact that we have a 7.9% cap rate on the retail component, and we have a 5.5% cap rate on the storage warehouse component. What was decided that was necessary for an adjustment, if I can now take your attention to page 9. On page 9, I adjusted the storage warehouse component. So the original assessment on the left shows it with the valuation stream that we went through. And when you look on the revised valuation stream, I now apply the 7.9% cap rate that was being applied to the retail component, so that we have a capitalization rate that captures the overall property as a whole. which then revised the market value from $798,000 down to $556,000. And when you combine that with the $2,742,000 that we have on the retail stream, it gives us a revised value of $3,298,000.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, in agreement?
Not in this case, not quite.
Okay.
Getting closer.
You may continue on.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for your recommendation and review, Mr. Pease. So if we could turn initially to your page 2, just to give the board a sense of, because, Mr. Chairman, just to preface this, the entire debate now revolves around a specific market rent issue on the storage building. Everything else is very close, and the 5% issue. So the storage building on page 2, that's the building that has obviously no exposure to Nairn. It's the one behind the main building that's fronting on Nairn Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, that's my only question. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
I have no question.
Ms. Linklater?
Once again, page 3, I just noticed the for lease sign on the bottom of your page 3.
I'm unaware of any details in regards to the current operations of the, whether or not they're looking for a tenant. So it was just included in the Google images that I uploaded into the brief.
Okay. So you're not aware of any vacancy issues this has?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a chance to inspect?
I didn't.
Okay, that's all my questions, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Reimer, your presentation?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll address Ms. Linklater's question briefly on pages of our brief, pages 25 and 26. That's the rental. This is part of the submission that the owner supplied to the property in response to the request for information. This is a December 17 rental, and it shows 100% occupancy. So I'm not sure, as far as the leasing goes, I do know that as of the reference date, the property there was no vacancy issues. The property was certainly 100% leased. So again, if I could ask, and this will become actually quite remarkably simple because the issues now have really come down to 2. If I could ask the board to keep Mr. P's brief open at his page 9, which is the revised workup for the warehouse, storage warehouse. And then if you open up our submission to page 9, please. So with the adjustment that Mr. P has made to the capitalization rate, we're now in agreement on that, so that's no longer in contention. The difference, and I worked through this a little bit, 2 differences. The non-recoverable is the 5%, so for the same reasons we've been suggesting for the past several months, we're asking for the 5% non-recoverable allowance to be restored. That's included in our valuation. The other difference relates actually virtually exclusively to the rent applied to that basic storage warehouse that's at the rear of the building. The Best Sleep Center they're the ones that leased that storage warehouse, and that's a 6,000 foot, on my page 9, it's the very last tenant, the W-930 being the warehouse. That 6,000 feet was leased as of the reference date at $6 a foot. So our suggested rent for that basic storage warehouse is $36,000. That compares with the department's suggested market rent of $48,360. That, in a nutshell, is the difference on the rental side. So our suggestion this afternoon, using the parameters I've set forth on page 9, is to reduce the assessed value to $2,992,000. Thank you.
I thank you. Questions of the applicant?
No questions.
Mr. McIntyre?
I have no questions.
Ms. Linklater?
Did you have a chance to inspect, Mr. Reimer?
I haven't for the purpose of this hearing. Now, I haven't been in the warehouse. I've been in the outside
Okay,
part of it.
that was going to be my next
Yeah,
question.
my understanding of the warehouse is it's just like, it truly is just the storage warehouse for, like, Best Sleep Centers in the front, that's it. And it's just used for their purposes without any degree of, obviously, typical industrial office finish or anything like that. It's just pure storage.
Straight warehouse
Yeah.
storage.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. Summation on either party?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to just a little further down the street, 990 Naren, whenever you're ready. There's maybe a recommendation on here, so,
There is.
okay.
So the file number for the subject property in question is 19-4024. The roll number is 1409-383-6400. The address is 990 Nairn Avenue. The 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 was for $2,236,000. And I do have a recommendation to make.
Thank you.
So in the original valuation, we had two premises, one at 8,620 square feet for $12.46, and we had another premise at 5,000 square feet at $18.02 a square foot. We have all the model parameters applied onto this subject property, which gave us the original assessed value of $2,236,000. After some research on this property, it was decided that the premise with the 5,000 square feet required an adjustment on the rent. And so after the adjustment was made, we have 8,620 square feet at $12.46 a square foot. 5,000 square feet has now been revised to $13.04 a square foot. We have all the rest of the parameters are all model driven and are applied, and it gives us the revised value of $1,945,000.
I thank you. Mr. Reimer?
We are in agreement with $1,945,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, panel members?
Sorry. You may have stated it, but was the 5,000 warehouse?
No, it's not a warehouse. It's I believe it's being used as a retail space. I believe they sell paints in that property.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, that's all my
Okay.
questions.
Summation, either party? All right, I think, Mr. Reimer, that concludes your part here, so thank you kindly, and results very soon for the balance of what you don't know. We're going to do the item number 4, so you can take us, do your part there, so.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the file number for the subject property in question is 19-3465. The roll number is 1209-767-8100. The address is 702 Broadway. And the 2020 assessed value as of April 1st, 2018 has gone up for $1,800,000. And I am asking to confirm that value, and also we have a request that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation, section 53(3)B of the Municipal Assessment Act, and if a reduction in assessment is ordered, that it follows section 54(3.2) of the Municipal Assessment Act.
I thank you very kindly. Panel members, any questions?
I have no questions.
No? Okay.
Sorry, just page 5 of your brief. I see 2 years of non-response.
That's what it's showing.
Yes. Are you aware if it's entailing more years than that?
No, I'm not aware of
Okay.
any of the details in regards to the non-compliance.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I thank you very kindly for your presentations, and I think that concludes our business, so
Yes.
thank you kindly.
No problem. Thank you.